Καλησπέρα σας, μ' ακούτε?
Ναι, κανονικά.
Ωραία. Οπότε ξεκινάω. The boat, the pinnacle of the late Neolithic early Bronze Age technology, gets the lion's share for establishing thriving...
Λίγο πιο κοντά στο μικρόφωνο σου, αν μπορείς.
Ναι. The boat, the pinnacle of the late Neolithic early Bronze Age technology, gets the lion's share for establishing thriving Aegean communities. However, was their use solely devoted to trade, exchange, and transport? Were the islanders renowned pirates? If so, were the available boat types fit for purpose as far as their seafaring properties are concerned? In many respects, the conceptualization of the 4th and 3rd millennia Aegean boat types is one of the most controversial subjects of the Aegean prehistory. Until recently, the image of the Aegean watercraft has survived through a limited iconographic database, leading many scholars to suggest that the only type that existed was the so-called longboat. Hence, due to the absence of data, we had a distorted image of the period's boat-building tradition, the available boat types, and their factions. The recently discovered iconographic data from Vathi on Astypalia, Strophilos on Andros, and others make this research timely by enhancing the limited database of boat representations. An overall re-evaluation through a more technologically rigorous approach can facilitate our attempts to determine realistic aspirations of the period's boat technology and functionality. Thus, this research aims to bridge gaps concerning the period's seafaring and the boat-building traditions of the Aegean basin. It challenges misconceptions through a reassessment of exact iconographic data and by implementing new evidence under an interdisciplinary approach, aiding in the identification, reconstruction, and testing of boat types exemplified by the Aegean iconography. Moreover, it examines aspects of functionality based on the boat's technical characteristics and whether they can be associated with transporting, commerce, exchange, piracy, and so forth. Overall, a performance envelope is aimed to be produced, allowing suggestions for the parameters of boats and their performance instead of subjective theories based on obscure data. It is stated that this endeavor does not aim to reconstruct the actual boat representation, but the type they signify, since are not actual naval architecture plans and their execution is possibly adapted to various conventions or has been afflicted with later additions. And this is an example that I like using in my presentations, where you can see how a fossil how a fossil has been modified and has been portrayed as a spider. Thus, due to the evidence nature, the information conveyed could not be absolute or even realistic. Additionally, it is impossible to provide an absolute determination of the period's boats just by studying their images due to the absence of actual boat remains. However, what can be done is to provide an overall glimpse by examining all the extant pertinent data via experimentation and the concept of informed speculation. In the same sphere of speculation, we should also include the act of piracy, which would be erroneous to be perceived in today's terms. Regarding the chronological context, my research mainly focuses on the late Neolithic early Bronze Age periods. However, I have also included, and its geographical habits expand on the Aegean Sea and its immediate hinterland. However, I have also included sites of mainland Greece and the Ionian Sea, where both evidence occurred. My major case studies include the rock art examples from the Acropolis of Vathi on Astypalia and the fortified settlement of Strophilos on Andros. These were studied comparatively with the rest of the extant data of the Aegean, spanning a similar chronological extent. Hence, an up-to-date database was produced based on first-hand observations. More than 270 examples were identified, 70% of which have been personally recorded. However, 200 fit our analysis based on aspects of preservation state, ambiguity, and contextual uncertainties. The reconstruction of an object through an image whose link with its maker is lost is an uphill battle. Additionally, one should consider the underlying bias in any archaeological description and classification. Hence, it was decided to find a way to assist this process. To extract the missing information, we implemented the concept of reverse engineering and descriptive statistics to completely deconstruct the available evidence and try to grasp its design and architecture. Although reductive in its conception, this approach has the merit of giving you the ability to reproduce the product of another manufacturer through the meticulous study of its composition and by using its very same components and going backwards through its production circle. For the implementation of this process, 6 steps were identified. First, the digitization of the raw data. Second, the extraction of the geometrical information through descriptive statistics to be assessed as geometrical shapes comprised of a series of lines. Third, the disassembled components have been reassembled through a frequency analysis, allowing the identification of patterns in our dataset, but also the possibility of errors in our data by providing us with a cumulative percentage for each variable. To provide a hierarchical structure and assist in the visualization of the base types and their variations, several diagrams have been produced. Next, we produced the templates of average shapes for each boat type in order to reproduce the product digitally. Additionally, to integrate further data into this to produce the climatic design, so our boat types abide by the limitations of their operational environment. Step 5 concerns the defined boat type stability, resistance, and performance tests that can highlight their specifications. The final step concerns data recontextualization. 2 main categories have been determined that can be divided into angular and rounded shapes. Additionally, 5 groups were produced based on the hull's general shape and symmetry or asymmetry of the extremities. Each group was further divided into subgroups based on the formation of the bottom line and the gunwale line, and each subgroup contained several variations based on the formation of the posts. This produced 11 templates of average shapes, 5 belonging to the rounded category and 6 to the angular one. To determine aspects of design, morphology, and dimensions, we adhere to some fundamentals of ship science with which any seacraft should comply. Additionally, the external environment, meaning the sea and the climate that may affect the ship as a whole and all the exposed equipment. Hence, the forces of its operational environment may affect the design. By examining this, we can determine the climatic design based on an area-specified wind and wave regimes. Besides, it goes without saying that the boat builder of the period would have been aware of the sea's regional and interregional peculiarities and constructed an adequate boat that would have avoided capsizing. For instance, it has been determined that one of the major issues of the Aegean Sea would have been the breaking waves due to the short period of wave drains. Based on empirical and experimental data, it has been observed that the height of a breaking wave should not exceed 30 or 40% of the ship's length. Considering that the mean wave height of the Aegean can be between 0.8 and 1.8 meters, one can get a rough estimate of their length. Likewise, by implementing some basic ratios of boat design dimensions, timber technology and availability, we estimated 3 main dimensions where the latter is considered an extreme example. I mean the 2 meters one, which can be too massive for the period. In that way, we digitally reconstructed 64 examples so as to test and assess as many scenarios as possible. All the boat types have been tested when fully laden in simulated conditions. They all pass the predefined stability criteria of seagoing ships, scoring to the highest category A, meaning they could traverse the open sea without being limited to island hopping or coastal travel. By examining the resistance force, we determined each type's average and maximum speed. To further validate how realistic the produced speed figures are, we examined whether a certain number of paddlers can achieve this based on the energy expenditure required to move a boat of these dimensions and displacement. Thus, we produced a formula that considers aspects of the paddler's physiology, the peak power per paddler, stroke frequency, and the mechanical efficiency of muscular work when paddling. This produced the following results. To sum these values up, a boat paddled by a single row of paddles has an average speed between 2 to 4 knots, with the maximum one being between 4 to 5.5 knots. while for those with 2 rows, it ranges between 3 to 4 nodes and the maximum one between 4.5 to 6.8 nodes. The same results have been validated by the towing tank test performed at the University of Southampton. And interestingly, they align with the speed suggested by other scholars based on their archaeological, empirical, experimental, and ethnographical observations. Therefore, it is evident that most of the boat types could be associated with commerce and long-distance voyaging, especially if we take into account that these had intricate steering systems, keels or center planks, and at least some basic framing and superstructure, as the evidence suggests. However, by taking a closer look at the specifications of the boat type 1 of the angular shapes, represented mainly by the boats incised on the frying pans found in burial contexts, we can notice that it's the only one without any cargo capacity and can only accommodate its crew, making it incapable of commerce or other activities. Similarly inferior are their stability results due to the excessive trim. Nevertheless, the average and maximum speed that they can attain are impressive. However, if a boat is not destined for trade, exchange, fishing, or transportation, what role could it have? Perhaps the robust fortification and defensive works of Athis, Trophilas, and other late Neolithic early Bronze Age sites can give us a potential answer. One may wonder whether the prehistoric inhabitants of both settlements acted proactively and dissuasively to a known substantial danger. In fact, as many scholars have suggested, the possibility of piracy in the final Neolithic early Bronze Age Aegean basin as a usual maritime activity cannot be ruled out. However, this should not be perceived with today's terms. It is possible these boats' meager capacity and inferior stability indicates that piracy did not aim that much to provide for the needs of a community. Instead, these speedy, imposing boats could be associated with raiding as a part of the islanders' life, searching for glory and acknowledgement of their value from their peers. Thereby, they satisfied these needs by venturing into new lands, fetching exotic goods and recounting their triumphs. Their valor could be represented by the same boat, whose prowess in harnessing the Aegean Sea with an imposing appearance who have brought terror to their prey. In that way, one of the most important products of material reality, apart from its technical, acquired a symbolic function and was transformed into a powerful image, clearly attested to the abundance of its representations on the frying pans. Perhaps they opted to decorate these artifacts with boats and bury them with the deceased to commemorate these expeditions. It is also probable that these acts were performed by a special class of seafarers, captains, and mates who, by using as a springboard their vigor and the speed of their ships, might have contributed to the formation of the much later warrior heroic ideal. On the other hand, the assumed cargo boats represent the giant that drove Aegean extroversion, a cog in the wheel of their forthcoming prosperity and superiority that lasted for millennia. In any case, all these notions belong in the sphere of speculation and can only be proved once more substantial evidence is found. However, what can be claimed with certainty is that quite early in the Neolithic, the inhabitants of the Aegean had a well-cultivated seafaring ethos and started adopting the seascape to their cognitive maps, using it as a means of long-distance connectivity. Ευχαριστώ για την προσοχή σας.